This Pikachu hat's a little hot. Doesn't really fit my head right, but I can't find my goggles. I already wore my other hat, my witch hat, and this is leading up to Halloween, so we'll just go with this one for this one. But hey you guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different, still kind of bookish but also not. But on the way to leading up to Halloween, I thought I'd do a video on my favorite villains, both from books, movies, and TV shows, and whatever have you. So let's just kind of get into it. This isn't much of a surprise if you think about it. Knowing me, I dressed up as a shadow hunter for 1 year in Halloween. One of my favorite villains of all time is Sebastian Morgenstern from the Mortal Instruments series. Now, I had a character chat on this, but honestly, I just think that Sebastian's character was just pretty well written out. He wasn't meant to be a monster, he just kind of got written off by his mother. And no, that's not much of a spoiler if you've read the books at this point. And like, he just became this like thing, like the monster that everyone wanted him to be. That's just how it is. And I just think that like, I feel like if he had gotten a redemption arc, that would have been great. Says the cat too. But he didn't, which always will make me sad until the end of my days. But I also like to have the idea of like him growing up with Clary and like all that stuff, because you can't really redeem him from the things that he did way back when. But I like to sit there and hope that maybe there is an alternate universe where he grew up with Clary and got a chance to be good instead of being written off. Which, you know, story of his life. Next villain in this video is one that I feel like also isn't much of a surprise considering how much I love the series. And I'm planning on doing like a reread sometime soon, probably in January. But that is Amarantha from A Court of Thorn and Roses series. I just love her because it wasn't like she had this huge like turn of events. Like, something happened in her life and she became worse. Like, if you read the books, she was already pretty freaking bad. And then the gigantic climactic part of her life just made her even worse, which I think is pretty hilarious. And like, I like those villains where like, they weren't the soft and dainty little precious thing in the beginning. They were hardcore, terrifying, and just got gradually more terrifying as the story continued. But along that same vein, my next favorite villain, slight spoilers for those who haven't read the series, so I'm gonna just put something on the screen so you can skip it. But that is Tamlin from the A Court of Thorn and Roses series once more. He wasn't a villain in the beginning because originally the first book was written off as like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So Tamlin was the beast that we like all fell in love with, but as like you reread the story and like you get deeper into the series, you realize how like toxic he was, how unhealthy he was, and when they mean beast, they literally mean that he became the beast he never wanted to be. I like that kind of digression where we like romanticize this idea of like this wonderful relationship and then you realize the truth of who he is, and he's this villain all along. Granted, there is some redemption arc in the last book, but like not enough for me to be like Tamlin like I was in the first book, which is sad because I actually enjoyed Tamlin, but not as much as Lucian. The next villain on this list is one of my personal favorites, and I haven't finished the series, but I know what happens because that's why I stopped watching the series. But that is Catherine Pierce from the Vampire Diaries series. I just love her so much because while she started off as this sweet, innocent little girl who kind of got in the middle of things and like fell into certain aspects, when you meet her, she's this manipulative bitch, and I love her because she never really kind of strayed from that idea of her. She just became more manipulative and is very all about survival. So I like that she was all about her and survival, and it wasn't so much like she wanted to rule the world or anything. It was just her being like, what can I do that benefits me? And also, I just really love her hair and her wardrobe. Like, her wardrobe was one of the reasons I fell in love with her, so... And she also seduced, like, Satan or Lucifer, whoever, like, the king of hell in the series, to do her bidding, essentially. So how can you really, like, sit there and go, yeah, she's not that great of a villain? My next villain in this list is Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Now, everyone's like, oh no, she's always been a villain, but if you look at like medieval times and like the idea of it, she was never a villain in the first place, and was never a villain in the like Maleficent movie. She shouldn't have been a villain in the Sleeping Beauty one, because back in the day, if you were not invited to a christening, you were essentially like written off and like a horrible person. It was seen as the biggest insult back in the day. So the best way for King Stefan and his wife, whose name is leaving me at the moment, to have not been on her bad side was to either invite her or just not invite the entirety, like all the fairies all together. Which I don't know why they didn't invite her, because like bad fairy or not, can you imagine the kind of powers Aurora would have gotten from Maleficent? Like, let's just sit down and think about this for a second. Because I mean, like in this Maleficent version, she became like her essential guardian, so you can't say no to like possible Maleficent powers. The next villain in this list is one that is close and dear to my heart, especially after the scene in the movie, and that is Eric Killmonger from the Black Panther. Now, I think that if I can do a dissertation on Killmonger alone and T'Challa, because I think they were one of the same coin. They both have like similar ideas of like how to do things, and Killmonger's was just not really like, well, it was well thought out, but the execution was wrong, which I think is a beautiful mirror to T'Challa, who is like, his idea is to protect his people, whereas Eric's is to protect all of his people from in the world and not just Wakanda. So his idea, while in theory is great, the execution is a little wonky, but I don't think we're going to tell him that anytime soon. The next one is another no-brainer from me. If you like know me at all, you'll know that I love the X-Men, so this one is Magneto, or what's his name? Eric M. Lushner. He is kind of the main title villain of the series, and I like him because it's kind of the same veins as like Killmonger and Charles Xavier situation. Both Charles and Eric are of the same coin. They have similar ideas for what they want to see with the mutant world. While Charles wants to see the mutants equal with everyone, Magneto kind of wants to see the mutants dominate. In reality, Magneto's a little more correct, because if you have mutant powers, you're gonna have a little bit of an extra hand. But like in the beginnings of it, they were definitely like, they had different execution styles, and Magneto's went one way while Charles went the other. So again, can't really get entirely mad at that, but at the same time, execution in apparently Marvel here, like supervillains, just needs work, because like there was Eric's and Magneto's, which is a little more like on the moral side, and then there's Thanos, who is like, what were you even trying to do with that? But whatever. The next one is from an anime near and dear to my heart, and that is Kikyo from Inuyasha. Now, I like her because she initially wasn't a villain in the first place. She was this girl who wanted to be free and met Inuyasha and fell in love, but Naraku was kind of creepy and did things, and she died. She was dead in the beginning of the series, and then they brought her back, and she didn't want to be alive, but she kind of made the best of it, seeing like, you know, seeing her love fall in love with someone else while she was brought back from the dead, trying to stay alive and trying to avoid this creepy stalkerish person that she just really didn't want anything to do with. So I really liked her for that, and liked the fact that she was just very much like, I don't want this, I'm gonna roll with the punches, but I didn't want this, and now I'm just gonna hurt everyone who's kind of gotten in my way. And she does a pretty good job, so. My next villain is Darth Vader from the Star Wars series, and I love him because, I mean, who didn't love Anakin growing up? Like, I grew up with the second trilogy, and Anakin, with his anger issues here and there, but he was just so relatable, because, like, he had so much stuff thrown his way, and he kind of tried to make the best of it, but he, like, again, he had one way of doing things, and that way was very easily manipulated. So, wrong execution and also manipulation kind of played into a factor, but he ended up becoming Darth Vader. And I mean, Darth Vader, like, if you've seen Rogue One, that last scene with the red and just actually more but he's just one of my favorite villains of all time. This one, another anime that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is Light Yagami from the Death Note anime series. I enjoyed him because he came out as this very, like, goody two-shoes kind of guy. He's very intelligent, very likable. He knows his stuff. Like, he knows how to manipulate people, which is, like, another thing. But on top of that, he also just has this ability, like, he gets the Death Note, and instead of, like, wishing ill upon his own, like, personal demons, he finds a way to, like, make it work for him by killing off, like, the scum of the earth, essentially. However, like, again, power gets lost in him because this is a lot of power for a teenage kid trying to get into college, and he becomes evil, essentially, and he remains the main protagonist. But I like how we got, like, technically the villain's point of view on this, because we not only see his inception, but we see, like, how his initial idea got lost along the way, and that's just very interesting to me. I seem to have a thing for villains with, like, good intentions but bad execution, and I feel like that says a lot about me, but we're not going to talk about it. My next villain in this series is one that I adore as well. I blame my friend for getting me back into the series because I was into the original series back, like way back when. I had like a toy and everything, but then they made a new one. Didn't think I was going to like it, then I watched it because of her recommendation. But enough rambling. That villain is Lotor, or Prince Lotor, from the Voltron Legendary Defender series on Netflix. And I love him not only because, one, he has really great hair, and he has a really pretty, like, honeyed voice, but also, again, with these same lines, he had one idea of doing things, and he kind of did them correctly, but also not very correctly. He did them in a way where it only suited his needs and what he needed and wanted, and it ended up where the idea was there, but the execution was more for selfish reasons, and it just didn't work out very well for him, but, you know. Again, running theme with my favorite villains, so we're just not going to talk about it. And my last villain is Cloud Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now this one doesn't fall so much under the same categories as the rest, has this one idea of what the world should look like, and he not only executes poorly but falls deeper into his own sins and refuses to see that he is at fault for some of the things that are currently happening within his city, within his life, and just continues to find scapegoats. And it's truly frightening because he uses his religion as a way to excuse himself of these things, that it is not his fault, it is everyone else's fault but him. And it's very easy to see that nowadays, not just with religion, but everything else in life, where you can see people finding new people to blame simply because they were the easy target and they were not in a place of power to have a voice. So, scary things when things from fiction become reality, but we're not talking about that right now. But that is it for my favorite villains of all time. I'm sure there are more on this list, not gonna lie. I'm very particular about my villains. I like them to have more than just to be a villain, and it's very rare for me to like sit there and like actually enjoy a villain. So I don't think I have any more at the moment, but I'm sure the list will continue on the more I read and watch things. But as of right now, these are kind of the list. But tell me what you guys' favorite villains are from anything. Books, movies, TV shows, manga series. So just, you know, keep that in mind. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say, as well as what you guys have to say about my own personal villains. But as usual, if you guys have any video ideas you want me to do, leave those down below, as well as follow me on my social media. Things will be easier for you to find out about what's going on in my life if I miss an upload somehow magically again. It's because something happened, camera technology wise. But yeah. Subscribe if you like these kind of videos. I try to post two videos every week, every Saturday and Wednesday, unless something happens. But again, I will refer you back to my social media links down below. But until then, I'll see you guys on Wednesday with another Weird Wednesday for Halloween. Bye now.